Hello everyone, good morning, welcome to Big Data London and welcome to another brilliant session here at the Teams and Culture stage, which is powered by Women in Data for both days here at Big Data London. For this session, we have a great panel here to take a retail spin on how they are building skills, mindsets and cultures needed for an AI-driven and data-led future. For this session, we have Lizzie Harris, a customer director at B&Q, Rachel Brayley-Partridge, a BI Looker owner at Travis Perkins, Liz Beale, a lead governance specialist EMEA at BP, and finally, our moderator, Sneha Shekharan, a managing consultant at PA Consulting. Handing over to Sneha to kick off.
Thank you so much for the great introductions, and hello everyone. Quick introduction, I'm Sneha Shekharan, Managing Consultant with PA. Have been a data strategist, so designing data strategies, embedding them successfully. Been doing that over a decade now. I love this work, and probably that's why I'm here today. And really thrilled and honored to be speaking to you all with this lovely panel with me. And the most important thing I would say is a topic of today. Every time I go to these talks, they'll be like, what are the new trends of tomorrow? What are we looking at? Our technology, infrastructure, but they always forget the main asset, our people. And I love this topic today. And so before I get into the details, what I'm going to do is first ask our interesting panel a question that would trigger. And while you're answering that, I would request you all to first introduce yourself and then answer me. And this is like a rapid fire, so quick answer, please. First question, what do you think is the main skill that people need for the next 5 years? We'll talk about 2030 in a while. Let's start with 5 years first. Over to you, Lizzie, first.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Lizzie. I'm the Director of Data and Customer now at B&Q. Quite a new concept for B&Q to recognise data as a function, so that shows how much we've been doing from a cultural perspective. I've been in the analytics and data space for about 15 years, always in retail, so always client side, unlike you, always the consultant side. To answer your question, what is the most... there's a butterfly. What is the most important skill? I mean, ignoring the technical side, not that it's not important, but it has to be, for me, curiosity and commerciality. I think so often where projects and analytical things or AI execution fails is because they just haven't been close enough to the problems, the solutions, and the people that need to actually work with those things ongoing. And they've always been tech-led data and solution-led rather than problem-led. So for me, it's that.
All right. That's wonderful.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. So my name, to introduce myself, is Liz Beale. I work as a data governance lead for BP Group. I've been there for 12 years, showing my age there. And really, data governance, a lot of people get an allergic reaction with governance and we stop things and we just add more processes. But really, I think my role as data governance is quicker accessibility to trusted data, and ultimately that results in innovation, faster innovation with data. So I think the biggest skill, I fully agree with Liz and Lizzie, curiosity is really key. But also I think sometimes we don't hear this a lot, but getting that sort of comfortable space for individuals to be curious. So we have apprenticeships, we have boot camps and what have you, but actually the golden nuggets are the people that have been in the business, understand the processes, and bringing that with the technology skills is an explosion, I think. So I would say that would be my main thing.
Cheers. Thank you. Hi, Rachel. So I work at Travis Perkins, so I look after our external sort of data portals for our customers and our suppliers, so sort of stock sales and some carbon data that we're now providing. I think I'd agree with both of you. I think I'd add in there as well creativity as well. Actually, again, like you said, having the space, but actually having a data set and just being allowed to just play with it and just see what you can find, rather than being dictated that you need to do X, Y, Z in a report. Actually having the space to play around with the data and actually just see what you can find.
Thank you so much for your lovely answers and very interesting, very different concepts, curiosity, creativity, and the technology embedding with the governance aspects, which is very, very interesting to learn about. And probably let's now, dive more deep into it. And first, I would like to nail the elephant in the room. Without speaking about AI, I don't think any conference would have been completed today. So I'm just going to go right into first that today we know that everyone is talking about AI. That the talk of data starts with AI, ends with AI. People forget about the data in between. What do you think that from an AI perspective, linking this, curiosity, the creativity, and the technology aspect, what are the key skills that are required today? Lizzie, can you kind of bring that to life for us?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what we've just talked about in terms it's really understanding the problems you're trying to solve. I think quite often where projects fail and the pitfalls are is where they just go straight to the shiny AI thing and the tech solution, ignoring the actual problems that we have to face. Because actually quite a lot of real business problems can be solved in simpler ways. And I guess AI is a much broader term than it actually is talked about. It's talked about from LLM and generative and agentics, whereas actually, we've all been working in AI for 60, 70 years in reality. It's going back to the real problems before you spend cost and then assessing it in terms of, is this a problem that can be solved? How can it be solved? How expensive would it be to solve? Is it worth solving it? And working out what are those quick wins versus the strategic investment projects, and then getting a nice portfolio together. I think being able to commercially assess that is the biggest skill to have the most success. I think quite a lot of us in the room will be in businesses with shareholders, and I think for them you need to demonstrate a bit of the hype at the front end, but then in reality, as long as you're doing the work in the back end on the proper data assets, the data quality, the governance and the infrastructure, that's where you unlock value. And if I use an example at B&Q, we're working on how do we model out and do best pricing for our products, and we've got a range, you'll be the same at Travis Perkins. We sell a lot of nails of all different shapes and sizes, but all ultimately the same type, and the cost goes up the bigger it is. But at the moment, our pricing is a bit more based on demand. But on a shelf edge, that's really confusing. You can buy more nail for less money than buying less, and so it just doesn't quite make sense from a behavioural science point of view. But you can solve that with behavioural science and rule-based logic, and then test how that works without getting into some really clever AI that might just be telling you to make a few pence difference on a price here and there that ultimately doesn't make a difference to the profit line, especially when it's cost you a hell of a lot of money to do it. So you've really got to assess the problems you've got and where and how you solve them. So I think for me it still comes back to that commerciality and curiosity.
Oh, cool. That's really good to know. So when we think about AI, the skills that we are talking today is the strategy, the vision towards it, and how that AI imagination that you can bring to the table, and then understanding what you can actually productionize that makes real sense. Just a follow-up quick question. Do you think then, within your team, you would love to establish more AI-specific skills? Like, in the days that go back, we think about Excel and spreadsheets. Every person in the organization by default, would know it. Do you think it's probably the time already that, by default, people need to have that AI acumen?
It depends what, right? Like you've got to cut through the guff and decide what you're talking about. Because I think across the business, you want everybody to be using the tools available to them to be more efficient. So rather than scanning a 50-odd page document in legal, you want them to be using tools to do that quicker in a safe way that it, don't leak your data out of the business. But when it comes to solving real data problems, there's a limited group of people you want to be doing that. You can't. Democratizing data doesn't mean giving everybody access to the raw and light tables. It means giving everybody access to the bit they need to do their job well. And so I think I wouldn't if AI skilled literacy is accidentally interpreted as everyone can have a crack at it, then I think we've got it wrong. You need to have the right experts doing the right things, enabling the right people, and as long as they know how to challenge and what to ask for, then you've got a winning formula. Like, I would never pretend to be a lawyer or an accountant, and yet all the lawyers and accountants will happily pretend to be an AI expert, and we need to just kind of own our space, but democratize solutions that mean they can make better decisions.
Absolutely. Fab answer. Thank you so much. Next, and another elephant in the room that no one speaks about, governance. Everyone wants to escape it. But today, I think, at least within our data professionals, we really understand the outcome of AI is only as good as the data underpinning it. And I have personally seen a lot of organizations investing a lot in governance. So what do you think, Liz, is the most effective way in, making governance an embedding concept in organizations rather than, a standalone piece that no one wants to talk about?
So I won't take that personally, but yes, with my title being data governance leader, a lot of people go, oh, no, you're just going to add more time and you're just going to increase the process. So it's demystifying that, I work in a global commodity firm. We're very heavily regulated from a financial perspective, so governance is key. We have the two sides of, the innovation and people really wanting to kind of start using AI and getting really excited about it, and then we have the other side where I don't want to use it, it's rogue, hallucination risk, I'm just going to carry on doing my Excel, so it's kind of bringing that whole kind of life cycle throughout all the different processes. I think one of the things I've learned, I implemented the AI governance framework across our global business because a couple of years ago, this explosion of AI and Gen AI, I thought, we need to start thinking about governance, and it's a very different governance that we've seen in kind of organizations. They tend to have a lot of governance committees and what have you, but they tend to be a lot more established. So what we implemented was a kind of an agile, very nimble governance where it's not going to be structured, it's not going to be the same framework, because what we're seeing is tomorrow there's going to be a new model or there's a new AI technology and what have you. So you have to be nimble. The other thing that we've implemented as well is bringing all stakeholders to have the same level of voice. And what I mean by that is technology, kind of rightly or wrongly, we're always given the accountability for governance. What are the legal risks, what are the digital risks? And actually that's, I think, a little bit unfair because they are key in any governance from a technology perspective. But I think, Lysias, you were saying, a technologist or a digital expert is not a lawyer. They're not going to own the legal risk for AI or Gen AI, whatever new model that's coming out. It's the same with finance and risk. You're going to have individuals that may not have that technology understanding, but they hold the accountability to manage the legal, the finance risk, the digital security risk, even though that sits within technology. That's going to be a very different view of the risk of a model or an AI usage. So it's having that sort of bringing all those people that manage risk across the company and giving them the same level of voice and having that interaction. I think that's really important. And one of the things that we learned, initially everyone's like, Liz, what are you trying to do? This is going to be a nightmare. Why are you bringing a lawyer that is never really touched AI? We have great lawyers at BP, but they don't really understand. But it's making sure that they understand that they are as important in the final decision as a technologist or someone in digital. And it's worked really well. Initially, there were a few kind of growing pains, but I think now we've, 3 years on, we're now at a place where everyone's really comfortable to kind of say, okay, well, this is the legal risk that we have versus, what is the technology risk? And it's a lot more kind of discussion points, because I think we have to be in my view, are very clear that this is constantly evolving and you can't have a rigid framework because it's just not going to work.
That is absolutely a fab answer. It's music to my ears. Agile governance. That should be a concept of the day, How do we bring in agility in the spectrum of governance in itself? I love the idea of bringing the key players in the room together so that in an ideal sense, there's no blame game as well. You didn't consider these aspects. And would love to know your thoughts that what do you think about the business value? Is there kind of a more value add to bring them to the room as well and see a risk and value based, agile framework?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things we've noticed with implementing that framework and structure is the turnaround time. So about 3 years ago, depending on the AI technology, we were talking about sort of days and kind of sometimes months in getting things approved and in the hands of the business. We've turned that around now to, sometimes, a 30-minute turnaround approval. And that 30-minute is across the sphere of legal approval, risk approval, digital approval, technology approval. So that's where we see the golden nugget, right? Because ultimately you are suddenly giving that technology to a trader, to someone in finance, to an individual in a very fast turnaround time, knowing full well there is comfort from a legal perspective, from compliance perspective, and from a governance perspective. Suddenly you've got people using that technology that they know it's gone through the process of governance again. It's a real innovator governance in a trusted manner. So people now suddenly have that technology in their hands and they feel comfortable using it. Look, I'm not going to lie. We still have individuals, I still have, people in the business coming to me going, I've got this new, application. I'm not using it because I don't think I'm allowed. So not ever being complacent. And I think the other thing as well is there's nothing quite like someone in the business singing the praises of a governance structure or something like that. There's nothing stronger than a finance person or a trader in my field going, hey, well, guess what? There's this new technology. The process to get it was really quick. Have you seen this? Yeah. That is the strongest thing I think you can ever have.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. And over to you, speaking, Rachel, you spoke about the creativity. And one thing that we have now seen is data and the AI skills, the literacy is not just within the spectrum of our data teams. Every professional in the organization needs to have that acumen of, using the data effectively because it's just become part and parcel of everyone's life now. What do you think would be the right approach, that's needed for the hour to make this part of everyone's life, but without overwhelming and frightening them?
I think part of it, firstly, it comes down to sort of accessibility. It's having the data available to sort of the operational teams in a format they can use. Obviously, at Travis Perkins, we have various different, from branches to sort of supply chain, operation, commercial side of things. They've all had different data needs. It's getting it, making the data easy for them, making it in the right format, making it clear, making sure that actually, like I say, with governance, sort of like your data quality, making sure actually like definitions are it's well defined, it's accurate. That's probably one of our biggest problems. If a branch colleague, they're busy people, if they get data, it's not right, it's not correct, they're going to disregard the report straight away. So it's having that proper data governance, data quality checks, everything in there as well. I think additionally there's been a lot of sort of uptaking sort of the data apprenticeships within our business, and they've been open to anybody who wants to do it. So you can get anyone from branch colleagues, sort of within the data team as well. Anyone can have, learn more and stuff. And I think that's been like sort of very successful about, especially like getting the data champions out in the branches, actually getting involved, like sharing data, showing branches what, other branch colleagues what they can do as well from there. And I think as well as a data team, we have responsibility to, to educate, to help. If you get a question, don't treat it as a purely data problem. Treat it actually, what is the business problem? What are they actually trying to ask? And rather than just, going away, make a report, sit there and try and actually help them understand, if it is possible, where they can get the data from and how they can. So actually they can start to sort of self-service and start and getting the data themselves as well.
That's absolutely great to hear. Self-service is becoming more and more need of the hour. But as much as we make the self-service, we as data professionals need to ensure that the data is accessible, available, and it can be really, really trusted. So that's in our remit. And it's only if we are able to do that, and then we talk about data literacy and making everyone aware and literate about doing that, I think they would be more than happy to do that. One interesting aspect, now when we go broad into organizations, is how do we measure it's being successful? The things that we are doing, the efforts that we are putting is measuring success of it. Anyone would like to bring to life how have you probably done it in your organizations?
So as the example I mentioned earlier, I think for me the measurement is that implementing an AI governance structure, the turnaround of getting the approvals. When we first started, we had kind of individuals on that governance board meeting where you kind of had a glazed look of individuals that were holding that risk. I would say the value that we see, I'm very biased in a data governance role, but suddenly that governance time of approvals to get it in the hands of individuals, that for us was a real key thing. We turned it from about sort of 30 days to half an hour. We were constantly doing that feedback loop of have we got the right risk framework, have we got the right governance framework. So that was really key. I think also there's nothing quite like the sort of the business, you hearing the business and someone coming back and going, hey, I've heard that there's this really easy way of doing things. So it's not measurable. You can't you don't have a report, but I think one of the biggest things, and there's a common theme throughout, I've attended some of the meetings, it's the human part of a business. Never forget that a business is run by human beings, and that's really, really key. And all different levels of skills, of some maturity and what have you. Just to give you an example, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a gentleman who was a little bit more, on the mature side, and actually now he's kind of really talking what I say AI speak, and that's fantastic because suddenly, you've got someone that 3 years ago was like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think you mentioned it's having that environment where they feel comfortable that they can ask stupid questions. I would say that would be a way to value.
Just to add to that, I think these aren't particularly measurable either, and it is quite a hard thing to tangibly measure, but there's a couple of things that we can do. One is just what do you hear in terms of how the business is being talked about in performance. So our H1 results came out this week. It's probably got the most language in it around data-led, data-driven decision-making, customer focus, etc. Like, the more that comes out in the tone of the business's narrative, the more I think we're crediting ourselves as a success. I think that's one thing. And then the second one is one of our key measures is how does every single colleague in the business deem us doing the right things for customers, and how customer focused do they feel in their role. And I think data is the underlying factor to that. You can't be customer focused unless you understand your customers, and it's data that drives that understanding. I think the more we democratize data and insight, we started to see that score go down because people are like, oh, perhaps I wasn't as customer focused, but then we're working it back up again. So I think that's another way that we're looking at it. It's, do we actually see the business results, and how is the business talking about what we're doing and how we're doing it?
Makes sense. I love the two spectrums of thoughts. That is one, bringing that tangibility, bringing that business lens, the customer lens, and are they really looking at data? It's measurable, and that would make us proud as data professionals. But on the other side, let's not forget, it is touching the hearts and the minds of the people. A lot of time, communication and getting that feedback and making that as a loop is really, really important from measuring success. So I know we probably just have 5 minutes. So quickly, I'm going to ask, fast forward 2030. if I have to ask each one of you one skill you have implemented successfully and the approach that you're with, what are you proud of?
Oh, I think if the business can demand more from data functions, that would be what I'd be most proud of. Like, I would expect and hope that they are demanding. I need governance on this. I really want good quality here. I want you to tell me give me the insight, not the raw data. Like, I think it's what the business demands and how challenging they are of us as a data community. I think that would be the biggest turnaround to success, rather than just give me this, just give me that, and not really understanding how best to solve that problem. So I think, yeah, I would hope that across the business, the biggest skill that is there is brilliant understanding and demanding of the different elements of a data team. So, the governance, the quality, the product ownership, the data visualization, but the automation, the pipeline, like, just demand it rather than do it. And therefore make sure that that the business is constantly trying to be more efficient, add more value, do the right thing by customers. That, for me, is absolutely where we need to be, rather than we need to do this thing because those other people are doing it.
Makes sense. Over to you.
So I'm going to go a bit rogue in answering this question. I think in 2030, I would absolutely love to have trusted data in my organisation, but truly trusted data that, you don't really need to understand the data, because you might have different SMEs using an application or natural language to query the data, but having that underlying trust, what that will do in 2030, I don't know, I'm hoping I'll be in an island, someone kind of, relaxing, but really giving that tool to all individuals across the business, I would say is my tool for the skilling.
Love it.
I think for me it's very similar. It's actually all the business colleagues at the operation, actually the data just being embedded in what the organisation does. It's not necessarily being a data team led thing. It's they are coming to the data team, they're requesting it, that's what they want. And that's sort of my bit from it.
That would be amazing, right? Like, someday in the boardrooms, we have these lovely dashboards. We have, the CEO asking directly to the dashboard, what are the key insights to it? And everyone just talks about data and the underpinning data. They know that this data can be trusted. They know that absolutely everything. That's the nirvana us data professionals are looking for. So with that, just opening the floor to the audience. Anyone has any question for our lovely speakers here? Yes.
Thanks very much, panel. I was just curious, Liz, about when you were implementing your framework, how did you get over the barrier of starting, getting the buy-in to start and get the framework in place?
Really good question. It didn't happen overnight. It took a bit long. I think that the key thing is identifying all your stakeholders, and not only technology, all the other risk advisors, accountable individuals, going to those individuals and explaining what you are trying to set up, and really listen to them. Where, from a compliance perspective, do they see the risk of AI? From a legal perspective, what do you see the risk of AI? And explaining the framework you're trying to build. Be open. There might have been something a lawyer raises that you might never have thought of, and say, okay, well, how about we implement this, this process in the governance process? Would that make you more comfortable? One of the things I found is when we first set up the governance framework, it was they wanted to see everything. They wanted to have a meeting about everything, and you have to give them that comfort and take that time to spend an hour with the lawyers to understand the AI risk from their perspective versus someone in compliance as well. But what we found is actually creating that atmosphere and that environment, ultimately you become a lot more streamlined, because it was music to my ears when I had a lawyer that takes accountability and the risk for the whole company going, actually, I don't need to see these use cases because I don't see them as a high risk. So don't be afraid of conflict. Take the time and identify your stakeholders and be open to their views.
Thank you so much. Lovely answer. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so we can't take any more questions. But I would love to thank our lovely speakers for taking this time. I would also love to thank the Women in Data team for hosting us and this important topic of future skills, and all our lovely audience for joining us today. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
What a fantastic session. Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists. As Sneha said, they were absolutely brilliant. Please do join us here again at 12 o'clock on the Teams and Culture stage for our next session.